Next project is Frontiers. It's a really great exploration game. And they have 11 days to go. They're already at almost double of their funding goal. And they have 2,500 backers. But check the project out. We'll be running the interview that we pre-recorded yesterday. And have fun with it. Hello, Lars.
Hello.
Great to see your success on Kickstarter. How do you feel about it?
Thanks. I feel terrified.
Yeah, I think it seems like a dream coming true for yourself, and you can actually hire a couple of people to help you finish your project. Do you have your team of choice already?
I have a couple of people lined up, yeah. I've got Steve Barnes, he's doing the music. I've got Addie Ashburner, he's doing the writing. And I've got a couple of people I'm talking to about programming. So little bits here and there, but not the whole team, not yet.
Okay. And have you worked with those people before?
I've worked with Steve and Addie for years, yeah. And I've worked with a couple of the programmers too. But a lot of the people I'll be working with are just going to be fresh.
Yeah, there's always a bit of an unpredictable element.
Cross your fingers.
So let's turn to the game now. You have sent us a video that we should probably run for our audience who may not have seen your project before.
Okay.
So why don't we run the video now and then we start talking about it. Looks awesome, even though this does not represent the final graphics, right?
No, there's a lot of placeholder stuff in there. It's still very much an alpha.
Okay. How would you describe your project to our audience so that we get the idea in a nutshell?
Well, the idea in a nutshell is it's basically a game like an Elder Scrolls game, sort of an open world RPG, but completely focused on exploration. So you don't have the focus on combat that a lot of those games have. Yeah, you're just free to roam and explore, and combat exists, but it's not shoved in your face as much.
Okay. Maybe we should run the slideshow with the images that you send us while we're talking. Okay. You said in your description of the game that it is a relaxing open world, and you just said that there's no battles in the core of it. So that means that the player is never forced into a battle, but could there be battles?
Yeah, if you want to seek out a battle, then they are there to find. It's battle is definitely present, and it can be fun, but it's not very deep or stats based. Mm-hmm. And if you want to avoid it, if you want to be stealthy, or if you want to be smart about it, you can just avoid it altogether.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about the tasks that the player actually has to perform?
Yeah, the player is a member of something called the Pathfinders Guild. And this is a huge sort of inter-region bureaucracy, and their purpose is to set up paths and trails between regions to facilitate trade and stuff like that. And there's a bit of conflict between that present day task and the sort of like glorious exploration of the past, and you're caught in the middle of it, and you're expected to do things for the Pathfinders Guild, like create paths and collect dues and things, but then on top of that, you're also sort of pushed in the direction of just exploring the land and going to the uncharted lands and seeing what that's all about. And along the way, there are all kinds of little side quests and things too.
So you start out with like a empty map for you as a player, and you start exploring the direction of your choice.
Pretty much, yeah. The map, you're able to sort of see the contours of the world, but you don't know all the locations, and you just start to fill it in as you explore. And you gain experience as you do so. That's the main way to gain experience in this game, is by finding new things.
Yeah, I've read that there's a survival bit in it, so the player has to figure out how to feed himself, and there are ways to cook with your own recipes. And
Yes.
then all players are part of the Pathfinder Guild, as you said, and need to create new paths, and they have to mark them with something like stone or wooden markers. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have to mark it with path markers, and it shapes the contour of the path.
Okay, so actually one of our tech support workers is a cook. So in real life, that's what he learned. Do you want some recipes? I can see a coconut cucumber stew coming or something like that.
That is a possibility. One of the rewards that I have on the Frontiers Kickstarter is you can actually make your own recipes if you like, because there's food preparation in the game. You can whip out a frying pan and start cooking and drop a bunch of stuff into sort of a Minecraft style crafting recipe. So do I have cucumbers in there? I know I have coconuts.
I read it. Yeah, I went
Okay.
through just in your FAQ, so it's quite interesting. I can recommend to just browse through the project and check out the FAQ. There's a part with what can I cook or something like that.
Yeah.
In preparation for the show, I asked you for one video, and you said there's 2 to choose from. And actually, I like the in-game one as well. So I decided we should have a look, because that illustrates that cooking and other tasks. Maybe we should just run that and then continue our conversation.
Okay, cool.
So I think that gave people a good impression of some of the elements. And I read about the idea of the fast travel, which I like. So do I understand it correctly that unlike in other games where you are in place A and want to go to B, you are sort of teleported and you don't see how you actually get there, and you sort of speed through the landscape on an existing path, and the camera just follows that path and that gets you there, so you have an idea how you got from A to B, actually.
Yeah, exactly. One of the functions of the paths that you create can serve is to enable fast travel between locations, and because the path is laid down, that lets me just zip the player along in accelerated time, so you see the sky change and the clouds and the sunset, and you don't feel like you're ripped out of the world like you do in other fast travel systems. It always bugged me about, say the Elder Scrolls series. I didn't like how I'd click on a place on a map and just end up there. It made the world feel much smaller.
Yeah, it's sort of like, how did I get here?
Yeah, like, okay, here I am. Yeah. But when you can actually feel yourself go over the mountains, you retain that sense of scale. So
Yeah, it's easy to see it because it has this pink or green band, and that marks the path. And is that what I have seen
yeah,
there? Yeah.
if you want it to, yeah, there are immersion settings where you can turn that off or turn it down or change the highlighting style if it just bugs you. But yeah, that's what you've been seeing. You've been seeing the path sort of waving along on the ground.
Yeah, I like it what it looks like.
Yeah,
Can you
I do
tell us?
too.
Yeah, well, you did it, so
Yeah.
you should. Um, well, anyway, but you call the current stage of your work the scrappy alpha. I'm quoting you, so I'm not
Yes.
judging it. Um, so it seems to you know exactly what you want to polish and what the final game should look like. Are we talking more polygons, or what are the areas that you want to have more attention to?
Well, one thing I want to, not more polygons actually. In fact, in a lot of cases, there'll be fewer polygons, but better art direction. Because right now I'm using a lot of existing assets, like free art as often as I can just to fill things out. And there's no really consistent art direction. And so one of the biggest things is going to be an art overhaul that sort of unifies all of the elements and sort of gives it its own unique feeling, which it kind of has now, but not really. And then I also want to do some real work on the terrain and the environments, especially the underground environments. So yeah, in general, it won't be snazzier. It won't be like, you know, more next gen or anything. It'll just look a lot nicer than it does right now.
I think I read that you started in 2011 with the project. So I guess a lot of it has just grown over time, and you might want to unify the look and feel of it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it has
That,
grown, a lot has been removed
yeah.
and then added, and yeah.
Well, that's how stuff develops. I think it's just natural, and it seems that you want to put some effort in getting it right.
Yeah, now
So
that
to
I
speak.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I saw that you want to support Oculus Rift,
Yes.
and I can see that would bring a great benefit for playing your game. That's part of the 80,000 stretch goal, and you have reached it this week. So congratulations for
Yeah.
that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what you have achieved. And do you have to get in touch with them and figure out how that would work technically, or do you know already?
Well, I obviously put in an order for the dev kit. I did it before I even hit the stretch goal because I could see the trajectory that we were going to hit it.
Okay.
And and I also know several people in the Seattle area that have Oculus Rift dev kits, so I'll probably be working closely with them because there's not a ton of information out. There's a little bit, but not a lot of information out there about how to properly support the Oculus Rift. Like plugging it in and getting it working is easy, but actually making a game that really works with it and that is comfortable with it and that has the right interface for it, all of that stuff. That's why the stretch goal was so high, because I want to spend a lot of time and money making it just right. So I think it's going to take a lot of just experimentation and working with the kit, and you know, having it on my face and looking goofy for hours at a time.
What other controllers are you talking about? Because it's called the controller stretch goal or something.
Yeah, a lot of people requested just game controller,
Okay.
you know, like a USB game controller. And then I'd also like to support the Omni, although that's not as high a priority. And it gets released pretty late in the year, so I can't guarantee it. But then I've also got a little bit of money set aside just for general controller requests. If people come up, if enough people ask for a particular controller, I've got some money set aside to support that one. So I'm open to suggestions aside from general game controllers and Oculus. If anyone has a specific request, just let me know.
Yeah, I spoke to the guys who ran the Kickstarter project Son of Noah that was successfully funded a while ago, and they're going to support Emotive Epoch. Have you heard of that?
I have, yes. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I have
It's
prepared a couple of pictures because I spoke to them about it because I've never heard of it before I spoke to those guys. Um, they are using it for telekinesis, so it kind of feels natural if you want to throw a rock with your brain or mind or thoughts that you
as
have something
natural as
like that.
something as natural as that can feel.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know,
I'm just speaking from a game concept perspective, you know.
yeah,
I think it looks even weirder than wearing an Oculus Rift. And if you
yeah.
have both on your head, you know, some
With
people might think you have to go see a doctor.
it's very cyberpunk.
Yeah, very much. So I don't know where that would have a place in your game, and it's also quite expensive. I think it's $500 or so.
Oh,
Um,
well, I mean, if enough people ask for it, then I'd be willing to look into it. Honestly, it hadn't occurred to me, but hey, that's what that extra money was set aside for. So who knows?
yeah, could be interesting.
Yeah.
Um, the NPCs in your game, do they interact with you, or are they just decoration? And how do you interact with them?
Well, it's kind of changing because as we've hit stretch goals, their interactivity has changed. They started out, I call them like point and click adventure NPCs, where they're limited to one location, and you
Hmm.
can converse with them, and they have a like a complex internal state, but they don't move. They just have one animation. But we
Okay.
recently hit a stretch goal where they'll now be able to walk along the paths that you create. So
Hmm.
you'll see them sort of going from city to city, and once they get there, they'll still be just in one location. So they're moving a little bit,
Hmm.
but in general, they're not as interactive as you see in something like Skyrim or
Okay.
like a next gen or even a current gen RPG where they're wandering around and doing their thing throughout the day. I don't have the means or the budget to do that kind of complexity.
Hmm.
So they're a little more static than we used to. But the conversations you can have with them are very complex. I'm
Okay.
not doing voice acting, so the dialogue can be very, very deep and rich and have lots of branches. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what you get in exchange for losing that movement complexity.
Yeah, I read that you can also find scrolls and books and stuff.
Oh yes.
So there's a lot of reading if you're interested in it, right?
Yeah, if you like. I mean, you can ignore all that stuff and just, go over to the mountain. But yeah, there are shelves and shelves of books, and the backers on the Kickstarter campaign, they're actually helping me write books.
Okay.
It's one of the rewards is, hey, write a book, and they
Hey,
were
get
way
some
more
work.
excited about that. Yeah, they're way more into it than I thought they'd be. So there's going to be a lot of books.
Okay, great. Are you planning any localizations? Speaking of text and books.
Yes, we're about to hit full mod support stretch goal, and part of
Mhm.
that is built-in support for language packs.
Okay.
So right out the gate, it would be nice to support German, French, and Spanish. I
Right.
don't know if that'll happen like right upon release, but maybe a little bit after the initial release. And then I want to open it up for language packs for whatever language people feel like taking it to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I can see how much work it is. I mean, we've done about 300 game localizations ourselves, so
oh,
I
really?
I
And
know
that's
what's
probably
involved.
without lots and lots of dialogue, right?
Um, yeah, it depends. It was a lot of it was adapting existing localizations to the Mac. So we helped
Okay.
PC products to come to the Mac, like Age of Empires, Call of Duty, Sims. You sort
Oh,
of name
Sims.
it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So, but there was an existing localization, and we had to make sure that right mouse click is replaced by control click and stuff like that, because there's no second mouse button on the Mac by default. But we did some original localizations as well, and that is just a lot of work
Yeah.
if you aim to do it right, you know.
Right.
Um,
If you, yeah, and that's the trick. With something really story driven, I'll be totally honest. I'm not really looking forward to the amount of work, but I think it'll be worth it.
yeah, I think so too, because you have a story to tell, And even though everybody has the impression that people in Germany speak English well, it's even if you know it well, it can be annoying to do that work when you play a game, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's much better if someone comes up with a story for you and you can just be lazy and play the game.
Right.
So it's not only a matter of understanding it, and then in countries like France or Spain, it's less accepted if it's not localized. So it's a different challenge. Just a few short questions about yourself. You have a background in video effects. So that's where you're coming from?
Yeah, I've always kind of done games and VFX like side by side, and VFX just sort of through blind luck ended up being the more profitable like career thing. But in college, I was making games and I was in a game group and all that stuff. And there's a lot of tool overlap between the two disciplines, especially lately.
Yeah.
Like ZBrush in one is no different than ZBrush in the other. So that's why I'm able to sort of hop back and forth between the two.
Yeah, I would say that in a project like yours, graphics and artwork and sound effects and all that is probably 70%. And with a tool like Unity, that all gets together in one place. And it makes it very efficient, obviously, to do the game development. It's a whole new development world, I would think.
It's the only reason I could do it is that a tool like Unity exists. You know, like I said, I've tried to make games earlier, and I even made one or two, but they were very small because I'm not an amazing programmer. You know, I'm mainly an artist. You know, I can program, but not great. But Unity does so much of the foundation work for me without getting in my way afterward.
Right. Yeah.
They say, here's the basics, and now go forth and do whatever you want with them. Which is, it's the reason why I never got heavily into mod making. I always feel constrained by the existing engine and the way it forces me to do things. But Unity, it's wide open. And it consolidates everything into one nice chunk. And I just have to think about that and not, you know, the editor and the this and the that and all of these different things. So it's totally different.
Yeah, I can see that. So good luck with your project. It's fully funded, and you're heading for at least double of what you were asking. So
it's crazy.
And I think it's a great project, and I wish you well with it. And thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is fun.
And I hope I didn't disturb your 4th of July too much.
Not at all. The fireworks don't start for another 8 hours, so you're all good.
Okay, go back to the family then.
All right, will do.
Bye.
Bye-bye.